There's a huge difference between being addicted to somebody else's or depending on someone else's attachment, and also at the same time creating and keeping a connection but not depending on it for an attachment. You can actually have relationships and connections without being dependent on them, without being dependent on someone else's attachment and validation. In fact, those are the healthiest kind of relationships. But that can only happen when you learn to find more and more of yourself, when you learn to value more and more of yourself, when you learn to celebrate more and more of yourself, when you start owning up to who you really are, you start celebrating your small wins, you take accountability for your actions, you choose yourself every step of the way, then bit by bit, you start realizing you need less and less for other people to choose you. But here's the conundrum. As human beings, we're born to be social, like we're social beings, right? So I don't know if you know this, but as human beings, we're amongst the most dependent beings in the animal kingdom. Did you know that? For example, birds, they'll kick out a little fucking baby bird 2 days later and be like, off you go, try and find your own fucking way, fly on your own, do your own thing, right? In like fucking 2 days. But human beings, technically, until almost the age of 18, we will live with our parent figures because we're not only physically dependent, we're actually emotionally and mentally dependent upon them. And so that level of dependency, if we don't have the ability, if we haven't learned in that time with that dependency our own identity, who we really are and what we're capable of, we haven't been celebrated, we haven't been chosen, we haven't been valued or validated, then when we step out of that like dependency, there's a huge hole. There's a huge hole of validation when we're on our own that still needs to be loved and fulfilled. So we keep attracting partners, we keep attracting situations where we will play it small to make them feel big and learn to try and get some sense of love and validation and approval of them just so we can continue to be dependent. Now, there's a difference between emotional independence and maybe physical independence. And emotional independence is extremely, extremely powerful because that allows us to create our own value and self-worth. Emotional independence doesn't mean that you don't connect with people and you have to shut them out. So someone asked that question, how do I not shut someone out? That's an extreme. That's the opposite extreme of getting attached, is to completely be like, not even, the word is not even unattached, but is to completely detach from everything and separate and isolate. And that itself is very challenging. Someone said, even if I validate myself and I'm emotionally independent, sometimes one just needs a very tight hug and some cuddles. I don't think we're arguing that point. As human beings, we're meant to be interpersonal beings. But when someone else's tight hugs and cuddles can absolutely vary or change your own mood, in the sense that if you don't get those tight hugs and cuddles, if your sense of vibration goes downwards, if your sense of self now feels like shit, if you start feel alone when you're not getting them, that's a huge difference. So what we're learning here in this space, especially when we do this work, especially now with you guys attending this live, is how we can start to create a stronger sense of self, how we can play a little bigger, how we can start to create our own identity, how we can choose us so that we can create a life which will choose us back in return. Hey, and welcome to the Inner Yats YouTube page. If you like our content, make sure you click the like and the subscribe button so that you get more of these amazing videos that keep coming your way.